Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm going to share quite a unique lesson with you. It's something I've picked up on the road when doing my big hitchhiking trip. It's a lesson I haven't really seen anywhere. It's something I've had to learn myself, and it's extremely valuable. So I'll lead into it, but to start with, I just want to give you some updates. So today it's Saturday, 5th of April. It's the first green hike, which is a project through my CIC, my charity, the Greenwoods Foundation, that I run with my wife Emma and our really good friend Becky. It's basically part of the Green Walks program we do, which is to get people back outside, walking, chatting with each other, forming relationships, building community, that kind of thing. It's people with struggling with their mental health, potentially, but not necessarily. People who feel isolated. I mean, who doesn't these days, really? I mean, if you don't, you're a lucky person, but most of us do, I believe. So we run this program for people to, well, target that really. And the idea is they do these smaller walks around the local area, and then they build up to a big hike, which is the first one today. So it's amazing. It's fully booked. There's 14 people. It's actually overbooked. There's been a bit of miscommunication on my part with the booking platform. Not necessarily miscommunication, more IT problems. So 14 people have booked on. It should have only been 12, but that's absolutely fine. They're all people who have come to the smaller walks, and so it's a very exciting day. I get to do this as a job now, which is great for me and for everyone else, really, because I'd like to think I can do a really good job at it. So I'm going to do my best, and there'll be updates on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, that kind of thing. And I'm sure I'll talk about it next week. So to get there, it's been quite difficult, quite challenging, because it's something that isn't really done that openly. I mean, loads of people start a business, loads of people follow a career trajectory that I'd consider normal, something you can apply for on job websites. But a charity, a CIC, it's not something most people do. And to do it, we've had to keep our eyes open for information, I suppose you could say. We've had to say what we want to happen and then look for ways to do it, if that makes sense. So the reason I'm mentioning this story is what's been coming into my head recently, the last couple of weeks, is the situation with the visa to get to China when I was hitchhiking across the world. What happened was all the visas were fine. I could get Russia, I could get Uzbekistan, I could get Kyrgyzstan, I could get Laos, Thailand. All these visas were okay, but the one I really struggled to get was China. So I started off in the UK, for those of you who don't know, to hitchhike to the other side of the planet, just for fun, really. Well, not for fun. It was to see what the world was actually like through my own eyes. I didn't believe what I was told, that it was a dangerous place and you shouldn't go this place or that place and there's wars here and bad people there. I just didn't believe it. I didn't trust it. So I had to go out and look for myself. And being 24, I actually didn't care if I got hurt. I didn't care if I didn't make it back in some way. So it's quite worrying thinking that, because as a 32-year-old man with a child on the way, it's just, I just think, wow, what a different man that was. And obviously, if I went on a trip like that now, I'd probably still do it, but I'd just be a lot more cautious. There's a question I asked Oscar last week in the interview about becoming a dad, which was, how's your approach to risk changed? Has it changed? And I didn't think it had, but I think it has. I think my life matters a lot more now, I think. And so when I take risks, I do still take many risks, but I'm what I'm risking is more valuable now. So when I was 24, there was almost nothing to lose, I think. And that's partly why I was able to go off and risk everything, I suppose. And luckily for me, it paid off. It was actually fine pretty much everywhere. So started hitchhiking, made it through Europe, no problem. Everyone spoke English. It was nice and easy. Made it into Russia. That was a whole different story. I was followed by the FSB and suspected of being a British spy because I looked like one. And then made it into Kazakhstan. Made it through there absolutely fine. Really nice time, really. There's many stories in these countries. I'm just skimming over them. And then came China. And the thing with China was you had to apply for a visa on the road. You couldn't apply in your home country because it had to be 3 months. 3 months before entering, before you can apply. That was one condition. The other condition was you have to provide a very detailed itinerary of your whole journey. How are you going to arrive? How are you going to leave? How are you going to travel around? Where are you going to go? How many days in each place? With proof, and proof meant flight itineraries. There was a little box on the application form to put your flight number in. I wasn't flying, I was hitchhiking, so I had to book fake flights. There was a website, I think it was China Air maybe? I can't remember, but you could pay more to have the option of cancelling your flight for free. So it was about £2,500. Thankfully I got the money back, but it was quite worrying having all that money going, pretty much all the hitchhiking trip money gone. And I wasn't even into China yet, I wasn't even halfway. So I had to book all the flights, made the application, it was all fine, looked really good, sent it off, signed for. I had to send my passport away as well, so I had to time that with where I was because I couldn't cross into any other countries while I was applying for this visa. So I sent it priority, signed for everything, back to the UK, paid a third-party company to take it to the embassy for me to hand in the application, and I thought, that's it, that's fine. They normally take about a week, I think they said, and then it would be shipped back to me. So within about a week and a half, I should have the visa, I thought. And I just put it to the back of my mind, left it, didn't think about it. About 10 days later, I was walking out of whatever town it was, and an email came in, and it had started to rain lightly, and it was pretty cold. It was just a bit uncomfortable, a bit miserable. So an email came in, and I thought, oh, that's probably going to be good news. So hid in a little bus stop, got my phone out, checked the email, and it said interview required. And that was really bad news, because an interview for a Chinese visa means you have to go into the embassy yourself, and it has to be that embassy that you've applied in. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back to the UK and do that. Why couldn't I go back to the UK and do that? Well, it wasn't the money, it wasn't anything like that, it wasn't timing, it was just I was on an adventure, and I've been hearing about this recently regarding having a child. When you have a child, you have the first however long, 2 weeks, a month, if you're a dad, that you're at home with the mum and the baby, and you're in a bubble. You're almost separate from the rest of the world, from reality. You're just in that bubble, and it's its own thing, and you don't want to leave it. You don't want to wake up, almost go back into reality, because it will take away from it. And so it was exactly that with this hitchhiking adventure. I didn't want to come home because I was already in this bubble. I was already doing this trip. I was already growing as a person, and I didn't want to go back to my parents. I didn't want to go back and see everyone, and I had to sort it out on the road. I just had to. It might sound really irrational, saying, oh, what, thinking, why didn't you just go home? But I couldn't. I had to stay out there. I couldn't divide the trip in two. It would have ruined it. So I had no idea how I was going to solve this problem. I didn't think I could, but I had to. I couldn't fail. I mean, I could have done, but I was going to try my absolute hardest, do everything I possibly could not to fail. So replied to the email. I just said, is there anything you can do? And they said, no, we were quite worried you'd say you can't come home, but you have to, or there's no visa to China. So I did loads of research. What could I do? Could I go around China? Could I go back on myself and cross over to the USA somehow? Could I somehow, I don't know. There was very limited options and none of them worked. So I thought, this is it. There's nothing I can do. But I thought I'll carry on anyway. You never know what happens along the way. Carry on anyway, and at least have a good trip to the edge of China, or maybe even go down into Africa. You never know. That was an option. I could have sort of swooped round and then gone down. That would have been quite a nice trip. So carried on, made it through Kazakhstan, made it through Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, all these other Stan countries. They were absolutely lovely. Lovely people, really, really good scenery. Tall, white, misty mountains everywhere. And then made it to Georgia. But before Georgia, this is why, if you've ever seen the map, have a look on my Instagram account, Tom Greenwoods. The third pinned photo is the map of the hitchhiking trip. And what happens is I go across the world and then right back and then right back again. Now the reason I went right back, when I was in a little hostel in Kazakhstan, I was just looking again, doing a bit of research and thinking, what can I do, what can I do? And I just thought I'll read every single word of the visa information for getting a Chinese visa, the preconditions, the stay, everything. I'll just read it again, and read it through, and I remember thinking, there's something different. What's different? What haven't I read before? And the thing is, I've been reading this document this whole time and not properly paying attention to it. What it said was you have to apply for the visa in your country of residency. I'd been reading it as country of citizenship. Now I can get residency in quite a few countries. Everyone can. Citizenship's much harder to get. You have to live there for several years, pass the citizenship test, learn the language, all these sorts of things. But I didn't need to do that. For residency, what you have to do in some countries like Georgia is live there and work there for 6 months. And I thought, I can do that. I can hitchhike backwards. It's only about a third of the way back what I've already come. And all I have to do is go there, get an address. I'll just stay at a hostel potentially and find a job. I'll do any job. It'll be low pay, but at least I won't. If I can get there and not lose money by the time I leave, then that'll be it. And then I can apply for the Chinese visa. So I thought that was the plan. That was it. So hitchhiked back, got to Georgia, walked into a bar. I thought I was at a couch surfing meetup. Turns out I got the wrong place, but it meant I went up and just talked to the first British person I saw, and she happened to be the editor of Georgia Today, the country's version of, well, it was their biggest newspaper. I suppose it was The Guardian, The Times. I don't know what the UK one is. I don't really read the news. Makes me too nervous. And anyway, she said to me, "What are you doing in Georgia?" And I just explained the situation, and she said, "Can you write at all?" And I told her about the blog I was writing. I'm doing this hitchhiking trip. I'm writing daily updates. And she just said to me, "Do you want a job as a journalist," basically? Because being a native English speaker for an English-speaking paper, it would save her a lot of work editing my writing, because it would have very few errors in. And I understand the language because it's my language. And that was it. I had a job first day there. And did that for 6 months. After that 6 months, walked into the Chinese embassy, and I felt so nervous, because this was it. I put everything on this plan. I thought to myself, this will be fine, this will work. But then I realised there's no guarantee that it would work. What if they just didn't want to help me? What if they were really rude, really horrible? What if the documents online had changed by then? And because that's the thing with embassies, is they're a bit like bouncers at nightclubs. If they don't like you, if they're just having a bad day or a bad time, or they're just feeling horrible, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to help you. And that worried me quite a bit. So anyway, walked in, gave them the paperwork, tried to be as charming as I could, and And they said, how long have you been living in Georgia? And I told them 6 months. I think it had been about 5 months and 3 weeks at that point, but yeah, and had the address, and they said, oh, where's this? And I was like, oh, it's on this street. And they're like, oh, okay. And they gave me the visa. No, they didn't that day. They kept it for a couple more days, and yeah, and it was absolutely fine. I had the visa, which was a real surprise. When I saw it in my passport, I couldn't quite believe it. This impossible task had actually been done. And that's really the lesson, I suppose, I want to give to you today. That is something I don't hear. I don't hear it anywhere. I suppose it's the closest thing we're told is to have resilience, to never give up, that kind of lesson. But I suppose what I've found from my own travels is it's a much deeper analysis of that. It's basically, if you have a problem that you don't think you can solve, an impossible thing ahead, but you really, really want to do whatever it is, or sort it out, it's basically just pay attention, really pay attention, and assume you haven't taken all the information in. Assume you've missed things, because you probably have. So much of what we see is actually not what's there. I don't know if you know this, but by the time you're about 35, about half of what you see is made up from memory. That part of your brain that processes vision, the visual cortex right at the back of your head. When you're a kid, when you're a newborn baby, toddler, whatever, most of what you see is made up from the back of your head. So you're actually seeing the world as it is. And that's why babies, toddlers are absolutely fascinated by everything, because they're actually seeing it. They're really seeing what's there. All the complexities of nature, all the little whatevers of people's faces. By the time we get to adulthood and midlife, we've seen pretty much everything that we're going to see, or we think we have. And so your brain says basically, we don't need to expend that many resources on this anymore. We've seen this before. We've seen a door before. We've seen a computer, a rabbit, a brick wall before. Let's build up this stuff from memories. So half of what you see is actually a memory icon by the time you get to this age. And that's why everything seems a bit boring, I suppose. So there's a couple of things that actually break that barrier that you can actually see as they are. One of them's fire, which is why it's absolutely fascinating to look at and never gets boring. The other is your own baby. Have you noticed how every baby in the world looks the same, apart from your baby, if you've had one? Those are two little things that can just break that perceptual barrier. If you have a problem to solve, if you're in an impossible place, or you want to achieve something you really don't think is within your grasp, just pay attention, try and look beyond what you think you can see, and it will be there. And that's exactly what happened to me when I didn't think I could get this visa to China, and when I thought that the barriers are closed, the doors are closed to me, that's it, I've got to give up, that's it. I just kept looking, I kept paying attention at the words, what I thought I could see. I just thought, am I actually seeing that? There's got to be something I'm missing. Just keep at it. And what happens if you do that is what you can see ahead of you actually changes. It becomes more like what's actually there. Yeah, that's it. And I use that every day. I use that with this CIC. So this is why I led in with the story of the CIC. I didn't think we could do this. I didn't think that I could lead people up a mountain for a job. I didn't think I could help people with their mental health and isolation weekly. I didn't think I could do this. I didn't think it was something that you could realistically do as a job because you enjoy it too much. And so with Emma, with Becky, we've just kept our eyes open. We've just paid attention. We've talked to people. Other people are great sources of information. Every person knows many, many things that you don't know because they're a different person. They've had different experiences. So just listen to people. Listen to what they're telling you. When I set up New Day Adventures a couple of years ago, a couple of different people told me, set up a CIC. It'll be much better for you. They literally told me this stuff way, way back a couple of years ago. But I didn't listen. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I could see everything that I could see, that I needed to see. I couldn't. I should have just listened to them. And what happened over a couple of years was failure after failure after failure, discouragement, everything. And then eventually, what will happen if you ever start a business or you ever follow a path in life is you'll have multiple failures. You will fail several times, but that's good. Of course you should fail several times. Anything worth having, anything valuable is expensive in terms of time and resources. You have to fail to get to anything good. What will happen then is you'll realize what you're seeing is not correct, it's wrong. So you need to find new information to come in. You need to find outside information that you don't know yet to replace the false information that you already have in your head. And that's why a good entrepreneur will fail upwards, let's say. That's a good way of saying it. They'll fail upwards. They'll think they know what the world's like. They'll try their idea, they'll lose money. They'll fail, and then what they do is they then learn, they then carry on. What most people do when they start a business or they try to get rich is they try it once and then they just give up. They say, oh, I'm stupid, it's not for me, I can't do it. But the difference between that person and a real entrepreneur is the entrepreneur just wants it so badly. And that's why I succeeded with my hitchhiking trip. I wanted that more than anything at that point. And so I had to succeed. There was no choice. And in that necessity came that little bit of information that I hadn't been seeing. And that's exactly what I needed to succeed with getting the visa and getting to the finish line of the trip. So just a tiny announcement, I suppose. Not really announcement, more just keeping you updated with how things are going on this end behind the scenes. So I've got a baby on the way, as I've mentioned. It's due very soon. It's any time in the next couple of months, really. It could go over, could go under in terms of due date. What I'm going to do is batch record a load of episodes. So the episodes will continue as normal, like they are now. But when the baby gets here, there's not going to be a big episode about it. It's not going to be talked about for a while. It'll be separate because I want to stay in that bubble with Emma for about a month. So it'll be about a 4-episode delay before it's talked about, just to keep you updated. You may see stuff all over social media because I'm sure Emma's going to be posting. Emma loves posting on social media. But yeah, that's it. I'll leave it there for this week. Thanks again for tuning in and listening, and see you next week.